Okay, so we've had 3 talks so far, and we're gonna have our panel discussion in a bit of time. Before it will have a video played, I'll tell you about it in a second. We're having a slight delay in time, so the lunch break will be delayed a bit. I hope you're not hungry and you can survive the next session. Okay, so our panel will be about saving the brand and how to maintain your reputation online. It's not only about managing your online presence, but also about managing the digital crisis which you might go through. In the second hall, we have a talk by Microsoft, IoT in a Connected World. And right now, we're just waiting for our video to play. Merci.
The congratulatory message to Team USA for their 2-1 defeat over Ghana, representing the African country with a giraffe, despite the animal not actually living in the nation. The tweet was quickly deleted after users pointed out Delta's mistake. User Ikao Aqua tweeting, "Congratulations on being both smug, patronizing, and ignorant at the same time. A giraffe on the plains?" The airline issued an apology later on, saying, "We're sorry for our choice of photo in our previous tweet. Best of luck to all teams."
McDonald's has unveiled its brand new mascot, and well, you be the judge. That is Happy. He's modeled off the Happy Meal box and has been charged with the mission of encouraging kids to eat healthier meals. But judging by reaction on social media, it's inspiring more fear than excitement. Says one Twitter user, I didn't want to sleep tonight anyways, it's cool. Or another, it's the meal that eats you. Finally, just one word, mistake.
My grandmother died 3 days before I was elected president.
It was around the time President Barack Obama made this comment during the presidential debate that this tweet showed up on KitchenAid's official Twitter page. It was quickly followed by an apology to President Obama, his family, and everyone on Twitter, as well as an explanation from a KitchenAid spokesperson, reading, quote, "It was carelessly sent in error by a member of our Twitter team, who, needless to say, won't be tweeting for us anymore."
An amazing PR blunder that was caught by Kit Daniels. JP Morgan Chase begs for mercy while not giving us any. They decided that it would be a good idea to have a question and answer program for their vice president, and they put this out on Twitter. Give us your questions, and people were coming back with things like this. Any plans to return illegally foreclosed homes to their rightful owners? If not, how do you justify your continued existence? Or do you have an org chart that's perfectly analogous to the criminal underworld? You know, capo, made man, or do you just wing it?
With the Boston Marathon, Epicurious thought it would be a great time to tweet out recipes for comfort food. Boston, our hearts are with you and we're thinking about you. We could all use a big bowl of breakfast energy today, and here's a link to some oatmeal. But just what you need if you've been the subject of a bombing. Whole grain cranberry scones. Hashtag insensitive.
Welcoming our moderator for this session, Ms. Mariam Karnib. She's the presenter at Al-Manar TV.
So, this session is meant to take you in a journey of 2 phases. First, we will get to know from our specialist panelists what are the most important steps to take before starting our social media monitoring initiative, and how to maintain and govern the online presence. And for the second phase, we will discuss, me and you, with our speakers, the best and the most smart tactics and strategies on how managing an online digital crisis. So all these points with the practical guidelines and policies will be based on the experience, knowledge of our speakers who presented their willingness to share their practical insights into the world of social media monitoring with us. So please welcome with me Mr. Bilal Halab. He is the founder of the Social Clinic, the first social clinic in the Arab world. As he introduces himself on his page, he is a digital advocate and a blogger by passion. We will use this passion today, hopefully. And a social media consultant and social business strategist by profession. And Mr. Imad Lahad, he is a director of digital strategy based in APCO Worldwide's Dubai office. And as I quote from his tweets yesterday, he helps company identify new directions and business opportunities, as we hope that he will help us with this. So first, before launching this session with our speakers, I need your help, please. We need to focus on about our concerns in this issue. So we need to point out directly to our concerns as Arab board in this matter. So in your opinion, and related to that video showing, what are the most important mistakes done by the companies, big brand companies, online, and led it to, of course, digital crisis? Who wants to share us? Please, go ahead.
Some companies maybe post some posts on Facebook, on Twitter, or social media, or other social media platforms that not relate directly to their strategies. يعني ما في شيء ارتباط عملي عندهم، فممكن نحكي بالعربي هيك نوضحها أكثر. ممكن يحطوا بوست، قد يكون هذا البوست نتيجة تفاعل الناس معه بشكل عكسي يرد شيء مردود سلبي عليهم. فهون بدهم هني يتعاطوا بطريقه مناسبه، او بده يشيلوا البوست اذا ما بعرف هلا كمان الاكسبرتس بيساعدونا شوي. لازم او يعرفوا كيف يتعاطوا مع الناس، لانه بالنهايه السوشيال ميديا هو مكان لنقدر نحن ناخذ ونعطي مع الكلاينتس تاعونا، اذا بدنا نحكي نحن كبيج هي اكتف وعم بعمل سيلز من وراها.
اوكي،
فهيدي ملاحظه.
Thank you. Anyone wants to add more analysis about this subject? Bilal, can you please give us a list of what don't about the mistakes that the companies are doing and led them to this kind of crisis?
I think that instead of thinking what should you not do, it's better to think what should you do and how to be prepared to face such a crisis. And always a crisis starts, what we always say is that a crisis, you should think of a crisis before it actually starts. So as a company or a brand or a public figure, put yourself in the devil's advocate's shoes. Try to think very, very sarcastically, very cynically, how can someone attack you in your products, in your brand, in your services, in your position as a public figure, and then start planning for a crisis. We were talking earlier, Imad and I, and a crisis is not, an online crisis is no different than a normal crisis that faces a company or a person. It just happens to be online. Sometimes a crisis starts offline, goes online, or the other way around, and so on. But there are some very basic steps that companies, brands, or people have to always prepare in order to help them avoid having a crisis turn into a catastrophe.
Before going to these steps, I need to focus on the importance, Imad, like companies or personal people, like public figures, underestimated the importance of managing and saving their reputation online.
That's for sure. Now, before we start into the technicalities, I want to highlight the critical situation that we are in. We're standing between you and lunch, and I know that it's awkward either to be before lunch or after lunch. We prefer that you are awake to some extent instead of eating and coming back. So bear with us a couple of minutes, and then I will attend to other stuff. Now for the reputation, I totally agree. We see lots of individuals, whether it be on their personal capacity or being leadership in companies or organizations, they don't appreciate the value of online reputation. I would take it one step back before we go into crisis, because crisis is the end point. Before that, there's lots of work that needs to be done on building a reputation. Which a crisis, a good reputation can help you maneuver and sail through a crisis if you have a good reputation, whether it be, as Bilal said, online or offline. We cannot differentiate. The lines are very much blurring between online and offline. And having a solid reputation and having people to defend you is the first line of defense. If you don't have that, then the crisis will turn into catastrophe and will hit you much harder.
Okay, so Bilal, who has or who should monitor their web online, their social media that they're presented?
Everybody, anyone, any company, any brand, any service, any establishment, any person, any public figure, any government figure, any CEO, any general manager should be at least doing social listening and listening to what people are saying about him, about them, about the industry, about the products, the services, and so on. And then always have a plan ready to govern this social listening with a proper FAQs, proper moderation, and basically hire people like us to just manage that for them and make sure that they don't fall into the trap of
they hire
social media.
you and they seek your advices after the crisis happened or before?
Way
Planning
before.
not to get to this point.
Way before.
Really
Way before the crisis happens.
So, okay, now to the point, what are the basics, the critical steps that any, as you said, personal, public figures or companies should take in consideration before starting up any initiative online?
First of all, you should always, as I said earlier, think of all the possible problems or crises that you might face. That's step number one. Step number two, try to come up with answers and potential comments and conversations to mitigate this the crisis for each one of those topics. Third of all, you should always have social listening ongoing 24 hours, 24 hours a day, and trying to get the feedback from the social listening in order to help you better moderate to the peoples that are talking to you. As we said also, social media or online reputation or crisis management is no different than offline, so you should always have this collaboration between your online people and your offline people. Always have one voice, one word, never lie. Always admit when there's a problem. You don't ever run from it because people will just attack you even worse. I think just those are main
Imad,
keywords.
do you agree or do you want to add more?
No, I totally agree. What he said is just the basics and the best practices. Now, I would like to add one point, a couple of points actually. One is that they hire us sometimes for that purpose. In so many of the what the best case scenarios, he said, is to have this up front.
Yeah.
So we can help them in the prep work and have them prepared and so on and so forth. But so many of the cases, they come to us when the crisis happens.
Yeah.
And they're not prepared whatsoever. And on top of that, in so many of the cases, they don't listen to the advice. So they hire you, they pay you money, and they tell you what to do.
Really?
Which is a very common scenario. And this is part of the culture here in the region, and part of, I would say, the
Arab
exposure
world?
to, in the region.
Yeah, it's
part
different
of the
from
culture.
the West.
It's a different, because we see our colleagues in different parts of the world managing crises, and they act as consultants, and they listen to them, and they follow the guidelines on what they should do. Of course, there's debate and back and forth, but in so many situations, we get hired, paid good amount of money, and we're requested and told to be what to do, and sometimes we just get out of it because it's not going the right way, and it's our reputation at the same time, because we have our reputation
Yes,
to manage.
of course. Yes.
Now,
On the
a couple of
same
points I would add to what Bilal said. In crisis, and we had the examples here, so many of them, it's about not putting your head in the sand. And
Admitting, yes,
so many ways.
mistakes,
One
yes.
is to be fast enough in tackling the issue, getting up there like the KitchenAid, I think, and she just stepped up, the head of digital, and she said this person is not working anymore because this person confused between his personal account and the company account, and they solved it, and it was perfectly done, and it minimized backlash. But not being on top of it, not owning the story, and this is the most important element. Today, any one of us in this room, when something happens, you go to Google, you go to Facebook, you go to Twitter, and you search for, you heard there's something happened. You don't have details, So instead of running to the TV, you just search. Let's say on Twitter. So you search for something and you get results.
Yes, and reviews about
Exactly.
it.
And so many people, the first thing they do, they go to the official account of that company or brand or the website to see what's there. So imagine if there's a crisis, everyone is talking about it, and you go to the account of the actual brand and you see its sun is shining and everything is nice. Then you need to get the story. So you're going to get it from whoever is talking about it,
media,
regardless
yes.
if the story is right or wrong, because you don't have your story.
Okay.
A perfect example is what happened with BP when the oil spill happened in the Gulf of Mexico. So they did, at the beginning, they didn't talk about it. And people, it's like happening in a different planet. So what happened is that an environmental agency created an account, called it BP PR or something like this. And they put a logo of BP with oil spill on it and so on and so forth. And within a couple of days, this account, which is attacking BP, had, I think, like 200,000+ followers versus the official account of BP having like 20,000 followers. So they were owning the discussion. So people were following this account thinking that this is the official account for BP. And they were getting the news from it, and media outlets at the same time, retweeting it, talking about it, and it's not BP. So even a company as BP decided not to jump at the beginning and owning the story, ended up by trying to fight a fake Twitter account on top of the crisis that they have.
These consequences may be the reason behind why many companies, they don't want to expose themselves to the public online, to the social media, because it's not controlled very well and will be, the other face will...
This is one of the excuses we get, is that, again, last minute coming to us. When you have an issue, you need to have a voice. So imagine a scenario where you have a company, big company, they're not on social media whatsoever, and their excuse is that we cannot control social media, so it's better not to be there.
Oh.
We all know on social media, even if we're not there, we cannot control what others would say. So if you don't have a voice and something happens, they come to us and say, we should reply. Then I'm very good. That's an excellent proposition. Where do you want to reply?
They don't have.
Do you have anything to reply, to use it, to reply to these claims? No. We can open an account, but it's too late. This is one angle of it. Another one is they don't want to go through, as Bilal was saying, the exercise of doing the exercise toolkit, manual, have their people trained on what to say in public, media training, so on and so forth, because this is cost. It's like insurance, so we don't need it now, we don't have a fire. But when the fire happens, it's too late.
And Bilal, from your experience, especially with this social clinic, what do you face? What do you have to solve?
I think that one of the biggest problems that brands or any establishment doesn't notice is that they treat social media as the black duck. It's always something different. It's always something they're afraid of, and so on. But social media is just another communication channel, just another communication tool. You
that
cannot
should be
have
well prepared and well controlled monitoring.
whoever is planning and working on your corporate reputation or any crisis management or any toolkit, like Imad said, should have a big say and should actually be managing your online social media. There is nothing called an online social media crisis management, at least not that I believe in. A crisis management consultant is a crisis management consultant. The only difference is that social media, once it catches fire, it grows very big and very quickly, and everybody knows about it. You don't wait 24 hours for the newspapers to talk about it. And that's where you should always be, that's where the tools of social media will help you to avoid that, which are monitoring, moderation, and listing.
You have observed some cute or funny incidents related to this subject?
I mean,
you
we have a lot of FMCG clients who for example, their customers, or I don't know if they are customers, but we wake up one day and someone tweeted out that he found a horse in a chocolate bar, or a chair or wood in something. Just people want to make money out of those big corporations very quickly, and this is why many Arab countries are acting quickly to adopt the online reputation that European and American countries are doing, which is that basically defamation, we call it here قدح وذم. So if you are going to have any to ruin the reputation of any brand intentionally, then you will be paid for it. You might even go to jail.
Okay. So before going to your special, true, direct advices, I like also to hear from you, dear audience. Please participate with us. Can anyone please share with us any special experience with this crisis online happened with you? Again, please.
زان فناش مدير لصفحات كتير كبيرة على الفيسبوك بلبنان مثل بنتجبال.org بيروت ضاحي.com. هلا نحن كونه اغلب الصفحات اللي منديرها هي بتمثل كمان مناطق ومرات بتكون محسوبة على مناطق معينة، فمننزل بوست العالم بتصير تقلنا انه انتم ما بحق لكم تحكوا باسم هالمنطقة او ما بحق لكم تحكوا باسم العالم او بيكون في ناس عندها رأي تاني بتصير تهاجمنا. مرات في شيء تاني بيكون حدا منزل شيء ومننزل، صارت معنا مرة حالة نزلنا مثل تناقل ناشطون على مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي فيديو كذا كذا كذا، ففي ناس صحفيين بجريدة المستقبل بجريدة الأخبار هاجمونا وانتقدونا انه نحن عم ننزل شيء عم بيثير فتنة او شيء، هاجمونا وانتقدونا انه نحن عم ننزل هيك شيء.
How did you respond with this?
هلا نحن اللي سويناه اول شيء نحن متفقين، عندنا جروب على الواتساب بين المانجرز على الصفحه انه ممنوع ينزل شيء هيك. في حدا كان منزلها مخالف، الشيء اللي عملناه اول شغله انه شلنا هيدا المانجر عن الصفحه، عملنا ديليت للبوست ونزلنا رساله طويله فيها اعتذار. كان الريسبونس على هيدا الشيء كتير 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 ايجابي، نفسهم هن ذاتهم الصحفيه رجعوا نزلوا انه نحن نزلنا اعتذار ومشي الحال.
Thank you. Do you want to reply to this comment?
It's not a reply. What he just explained is an immediate response and
it's a major step, yes,
major
to take.
The positive reaction to the incident. Now, what I would like to highlight on is, and you mentioned if you have something interesting to share or funny to share, the funniest elements, because crisis you cannot stop it. You can have ways to be prepared to potential crisis and how to go through it. But crises are different types. Ones that are not caused by you, you are subject to it. So it happened that the crisis...
You've been attacked or something?
It can be attacked by a competitor, it can be orchestrated kind of, online attack. So this is one. So you have to be ready to reply to it. Some, because of other circumstances, your brand was part of this, and it happened. But the worst part, and the worst kind of crisis, is the crisis initiated by the companies themselves.
How?
Like the McDonald's one that we saw right now. Another one where McDonald's as well, where they had a hashtag, they launched it I think a couple of years back, McDonald's stories, MCD stories. And they had the intention that people will share their nice stories with McDonald's. But we know that fast food and McDonald's, you have haters and you have lovers. So if you put out something like this and you tell them, share your stories, then you open the Pandora box and you know what's going to come to you. So instead of having something that will create engagement, well, engagement happened, but more than half of it was on the other direction, attacking the brand and people sharing stories, bad stories about McDonald's.
Okay.
And you open the door and you cannot close it.
I will participate in my own also. Bilal, you mentioned public figures. They need also to launch their on private pages, public pages. They have followers. For me, I had a problem with the public page because when I receive something like insults, like negative comments, I don't know how to react, to delete it, to ban this person, or if I want to open discussion with him, I don't know where would lead this to me. And I know that the other followers, they are waiting to see how I would respond. So
part of being ready or planning to be online is governance, and it's social media governance. And with social media governance comes policies and guidelines. Basically, to simplify it, it's like the do's and don'ts of social media. So we develop toolkits for a public figure or an establishment on what to do, what not to do, and how to do things. Now, in the case of a public figure, it's a bit different because you're speaking on behalf of yourself, not on behalf of an establishment. So sometimes you are posting or tweeting or sending out messages yourself, and sometimes
I'm responsible.
Yes, and sometimes it's your staff or it's your consultants or someone like us who are building those stories and publishing them on your behalf. Now, one of the biggest problems that we always face with such public figures or CEOs or people basically is that they don't understand that their online presence is not owned by them. It's owned by the strategy that we build for them. You cannot just one day, get up and post an Instagram image or tweet about you brushing your teeth in your PJs. You think that it's nice or cute or people are going to relate to it, but it might send out a big backlash of sarcasm, for example. And this happened with one of the ministers that we work for in one of the Arab countries. He just woke up one day and thought, you know what, I want to show people that I'm like you. So he tweets out an image in his PJs and he's brushing his teeth, and it was ridiculous. People did not take it as you're humble. They took it as if you're like what are you doing?
So what to do if we face it something critical and we have to take action? Do we seek help? And it's not easy all the time, to follow the followers and to all the time answer to the others.
This is why you need to have a team of people that are working to maintain that and to always be listening to what people are saying and always be ready to reply, because I always say that any public figure who is important enough to have his presence strong on social media means that he or she does not have enough time to maintain this presence on social media.
And seek advice from people like you.
Exactly. This is why you need someone or some company or whatever to help you with that.
Okay. I noticed others, they want to share also. Please.
Wa'il Bdair. I'm working as a digital marketer for some brands and companies on Facebook or Instagram or something like other platforms. I'd just like to talk about a point that feedback is one of the important things that we can take from social media. Not like any other platforms like TV or where you put your ads on. In social media, you can take a feedback. I'd like to share a simple story from one of our pages that I manage. The page is name is شغل ايد. بتعمل اشياء شغل ايد، اشياء حرفيه او يدويه. فهذه قصه هيك صارت نحن نستفيد منها. كان عندنا بتعمل شيء تمور، هذا التمر بتحط بقلبه مثلا لوز او بتحط بقلبه اشياء حشوات كثير غريبه وبتبيعهم. كنا عم نعمل شيء على الكامبين على الفيسبوك، حطينا انه تمر بنكهات مميزه، ال1 كيلو is for $60. فبعد ما حطينا البوست تقريبا بشي ساعه تفاجئنا انه في كثير كومنتس، شيء عم بقول انه مثلا لفرضنا ب$60,000 بشتري 3 كيلو لحمه، شيء بيقول انه ب$60,000 بقدر اعمل شيء. صارت في كثير نيجاتيف كومنتس. فواقعا هون انه هذا از براند او از في شيء ممكن يكون الناس عم تحكي فيه ياثر سلبا على هذه البراند. هلا السؤال المفترض تساليني اياه شو عملنا نحن؟ هذا اللي حنحكيه. بدايه نحن اخذنا طبعا بالتشاور مع المسؤول عن هذا الموضوع وابدينا راينا از كونسلتنت شو فينا نعمل. قدمنا اول شيء كل اللي عملوا كومنتس، بعثنا لهم حطينا كومنت طبعا وبعثنا لهم عندهم كبرايفت، تواصلنا معهم انه اذا عندكم هذا الكود اول شيء فيكم تاخذوا 1 كيلو فور فري. السبب انه نحن بررنا انه نحن الكواليتي اللي عندنا هي هاي كواليتي، دائما نحن بنجيب هاي كواليتي ديتس بنقدر نشتغل فيهم بطريقه كثير مميزه، فنحن بندعيكم انه تجربوهم. actually they was shocked. هذه فيرست استراتيجي اشتغلنا عليها. السكند استراتيجي تواصلنا مع الناس اللي هي اصلا كانت كاستمرز عندنا وطلبنا منهم انه ليفوتوا يعملوا كومنت ويعطوا تجربتهم انه بهذا البرودكت. فتفاجئنا انه نحن حولنا هذه التجربه اللي كانت نيجاتيف حولناها لشيء كثير بوزيتيف. الناس تفاعلت بشكل كثير يعني ايجابي وهذا اللي
Thank you for pointing out this point. Any taking action to solve any negative comments needs يعني high price to change or to improve or to present like recompensing for the
high price?
Yes, high prices.
Cost, you mean? What he just mentioned is very important. Sometimes to counter a negative or an issue, it might not be a crisis, it might be a simple issue or crisis or semi-crisis or whatever you call it. By doing simple stuff, you can just turn the tide completely. Because when people, they comment or put things out on social media, they expect there should be feedback. And the worst thing you can do if you have complaints is just to ignore. And if you ignore, people will get much more frustrated. And more frustration means more aggressivity and more rallying around it. So just by diffusing and by talking to them, sometimes it's more than enough. Now for some brands, if they have specific issue and there's a major fault in a product or whatever, then you need different course of action. But again, being proactive, talking to them and engaging in a discussion that is positive always is good. Now, in your point for the celebrities, public figures and getting comments, now it is general practice as well for brands and individuals. You have two schools, and so many celebrities, they use two schools. One is that they put out their posts, their opinions, and their approach is not to answer anyone and not to engage and they put it as a pattern. So
but
for me,
demand
yes,
that
but
you
if you have,
to put likes,
but I'll give
why you don't
but
put
this is
likes,
the thing.
why
If
you
you
don't
become
reply.
selective, this is why you have two schools. So, but imagine a person with 4 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
Even if you have a team, the amount of likes when you get 30,000 likes on a certain post.
You don't have that much time, yani, to.
I saw a video once where you have a phone, they use it for social media, not the personal phone, and the likes are coming, it's like waterfall. So even if you want someone to sit down and talk to people, you don't have. You have a team of 15, you won't be able to manage 30,000. So for them, it's just they post, and the timeline, people will be commenting, attacking, insulting, they just don't look at the timeline. They just forget it because this is a space which is not them.
Okay.
Now for some, it's very selective. They choose the people that follow them and they engage with some people at the same time. And they put it out a policy that I won't engage in a discussion with someone that is disrespectful, insulting, whatever, and they ban them and they say that. So I'm open to discuss with you, to talk with you, but there's a limit. And once you pass that limit, I don't have any problem whatsoever blocking you or removing you out. So the person as well, with us, we set the guidelines. And the person will have an identity. This is a person that will put out, but he's not talking to anyone, so there's no sensitivities that he's talking to this person, not that person. And
Okay, setting guidelines and respecting these guidelines. Not for once I will do this one school theory and the other time, okay, so it's like a game. Before going to you, Bilal, please let me, because I promised, please go ahead.
In crisis situation, traditionally PR is more focused on controlling the spokespeople, the messages. I give examples of airplane crashes or bank runs. In our world today, how easy is it for you, or when you advise normally companies, you gotta keep everybody on the message, or you gotta ban everybody from talking about this situation? So traditionally, okay, only the spokespeople are heard in such a crisis, but today it's so much difficult to control everybody in the company. The leaks are so much wide open and they are out there. How do you deal with this? Thank you.
It's a good point. Yes, Bilal.
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. First of all, you cannot guarantee anything. So you can never guarantee leaks, for example. And we've seen that with government agencies, and we've seen that with private companies. You can never guarantee something not leaking, because anyone who has any piece of information, it's in your brain. You cannot really guarantee that with people unless you have some sort of an internal governance policy that really punishes people very harshly. But how to deal with the crisis? There are two things that we always advise our clients to do, and two things to never do. The two things that are positive to do, one of them is to always try, just like the sir here did, to always try and change the negative sentiments into positive sentiments. So always try to drive the conversation, not be a passenger, but be the actual driver of the conversation. Try as much as you can to change the negative perception into positive perception online, so that people start forgetting about the problem
negative.
or the crisis or anything. And here you can do, there are so many strategies that you can do, probably with content creation, with the use of influencers or ambassadors and so on, and generally change the perception of the brand from negative to positive depending on that
In
crisis.
this issue, Bilal, should everything, any solution presented should be online?
The second thing, positive thing, which is to try and to take the negativity offline. And that's where its leverage really stops and dies, because not many people are having access to the information, and then it's just between you and that person who caused or was affected by that crisis. Now, of course, this depends on the crisis. So a plane crash, for example, is extremely hard to take it offline. I think it's impossible to take it offline. But with with consumer to brand or a group of consumers, you can probably try to take it offline. The two things that anyone should not do, one of them is lie,
Of course.
or apologize. And I'm not going to focus on lying, I'm going to focus on apology. Sometimes our clients get some tweet or some post that this happened to me, and then the client also directly tells me, call him and send him a gift and apologize. Once you apologize, you're admitting to that mistake. So if you have not done that mistake, you don't need to apologize. That person might be lying, that person might be creating stories, or that person might have a negative interaction or experience with your brand, but it's not your fault.
Okay,
so you don't need to apologize.
First responding should be, thank you.
Acknowledging it, but don't apologize.
We will see about this,
Yes.
and we will back to you.
Exactly.
And if they're really measuring this,
Yes.
if there is mistake, they should admit the mistake.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. And then finally, of course, people think that if I just delete something or hide something or ban someone,
Yes.
this is a very silly solution, because
Okay.
because keep in mind that if someone tweeted out something that really affected them emotionally, they screenshot that. So if you delete it, you're just driving sarcastic attention to yourself. If you ban them, it'll take them 5 seconds to make a new account, and you just really be building up this this negative belief that people are believing that you are not, you have actually caused this crisis, or you're actually negative.
Back to the audience. Anyone has? Okay, can we take the two?
One more question.
Okay, please.
Thank you for this panel, first. Second, I would like to ask you, where do you position brand advocates in any crisis, solution or any crisis policy? Because brand advocates can really take the toll for you. They can help you not to reply, and they will take the position of replying and defending your brand. So where do you position brand advocates?
Thank you. It was brief. Can you pass the mic to the gentleman? Yes. Briefly, we can answer. And yes.
What are your recommendations when it comes to the distraction of the mass when there's a crisis, or converting the attention of the public? We've seen it in Dubai in the first week of Jan 2016. Everyone should have been talking about the fire in the Address Hotel. Instead, they diverted the attention, all of it, towards the promise from Dubai government to renovate and rebuild the hotel within a record time frame. So what are your recommendations in this direction?
Just to answer your question, there are two things that are really very important on social media when it comes to people. It's the brand advocates, like you call them, or some people call them brand ambassadors. And those are people who really love the brand. They're not paid to love the brand. They're not bribed to love the brand. They really, really like the service, the brand, the person, and so on. And then there are the influencers. The influencers are those celebrities that spokespeople, the faces of the brand, and so on. there is something called a brand ambassador program that we do for all the clients who are willing to do this program, which is basically gather up the top 100, 150, 200, depending on how much the brand can afford, people on social media that always interact with the brand, that always positively talk about this brand, because they actually have this, have this affinity, have this love for the brand. Gather them once every quarter, twice every year, and so on, and over dinner, over lunch or something, and just take their opinion, try to crowdsource from them how to enhance the brand, how to make it better, and so on, and build this group of people that will always help you, give you feedback, and support you in the time of need. Now, of course, you should be able to also help them, have a bigger influence on social media, because regardless how much they are in number, but at the end of the day, if they just have their 5 cousins and their 2 sisters as followers, they will not really help you on social media. So I think it's a win-win situation, and again, you should always try to get those ambassadors or those advocates to your side way before a crisis happens, so that it's genuine.
Okay, good enough. Imad?
You tackled a very important point, and the example you gave for the hotel is perfect. Now, this is something we call it's a tactic actually, which is diversion. Now, diversion can be done in so many ways, but you're just diverting the attention from the main thing that's happening, not because you want to hide it, just because you want to minimize the attention on it, and then you can give another exposure when you solve it. Now, there are ways to do it. One is the example that you just gave. Give something positive to outcover, let's say, the negative element. Another, let's say, we gave the examples of plane crashes. So instead of having everything on your brand page, so what happens in big crises like these, when you have longer period of time, sometimes like the Malaysian plane, which took almost a year, and the BP issue. So a diversion would be creating platforms, special dedicated microsite and Twitter account or social media accounts for that crisis, and direct all the discussion and queries and things about this crisis per se to these platforms. And you have people working directly on this account just for that sake. And then you relieve the brand page from getting all the negativity all the time and being flooded. And this is a diversion as well. Another diversion might be as well, and which every brand, when they're in crisis, they wish for, is that they are in a crisis and something bigger happens in the country or somewhere else with another brand, which will, so it's good and bad to think about it this way, but sometimes a bigger crisis will outshadow another one, and you'll be lucky in this case, which you cannot control in that element.
I just want to add one thing to what he's saying, and specifically to your example. Social media doesn't change the brand perception. In your specific example, Dubai is known for its speed, for its productivity, for its efficiency, and so on. And Dubai has brought its customers, who are the people who live in Dubai and who have someone who lives in Dubai, to really believe in its ability. So when the government said that we're going to rebuild it in an exceptional time and make it better than before, renovate it and so on, people really believed them, because they've actually done that before. In other countries, that would have been a source of a very big joke.
Okay, so we ended this session. I would like to thank you very much for your gracious, helpful, inshallah, hints. Thank you very much. And thank you for your participation and your attending. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.